I think so.
I think it would make the most sense. So we'll do these two. Pretty much the same combinations we did before, only now there's more characters than when we last did this. Anyway, so I guess without further ado, I'll give this a go. These are going to go on YouTube as well, but this is something really important that I think is worth doing, because in the news of when Ultimate drops, we know that alongside new characters and new balance patch, they have confirmed that custom variations are going to become the norm for competitive play, whether it's, you know, tournaments, whether it's combat league, like anywhere that you would normally be restricted to tournament variations, you will now have the option to make and choose custom variations there as well. They've announced there's like a big UI change coming to it, so you will be able to make variations on the fly in character select, so the logistical side of things is going to be way easier. The whole process is going to be way quicker, and that's basically the whole point. So, about a year ago, before Variation 3s were added, probably over a year by now, it's all the months are blurring into one, we were in a situation where Variation 3s were announced and they were coming up, and we basically sat down and had like an extensive look at every character, theorizing a potential third variation that each character might have. This was before we knew the third variations and what they would be, so we were looking at the unused moves, and we were kind of looking at potential ones we might see. We were right about a lot of them, some of them no, but we did look at a lot of custom moves and have, you know, a bit of a deep dive into them. However, what I'm doing now and what these videos and what these streams, if you're watching on Twitch, are going to be about are, with the news of custom variations coming to competitive, the one real main concern that I'm seeing from people is the lack of knowledge, the lack of understanding as to what the other moves are, what they're going to do, and basically what's going to happen to these characters. Because the general gist, like the main opinion I'm seeing is people are very optimistic. They like how the game is going to have this kind of like fresh coat of paint on it, and you know, these characters are going to have a lot more kind of like on the fly depth, and character specialty can really thrive. But there is that understandable hesitation of, we don't know what these moves are, we haven't seen them, they're scary, what are they going to do to the game? So what I want to do is, I want to go through every single character, like we did for the third variations before they came out, and look at all of their currently unused tournament custom moves going into tournaments. So every custom move that is currently not in a competitive variation, we're going to look at for every character. We're not talking variation combinations, we're looking at the moves themselves and talking about what they are, and in theory, some ideas where they could go, what they could do. Very hypothetical, very on paper, but, you know, this is for those of you that are hesitant and a bit concerned about moves you haven't seen before. We're going to show you those moves, and we're going to explain what they do. You know, I think that's going to help a lot of people going into the patch and Ultimate, and I think it's definitely something that will be beneficial, and hopefully it's entertaining, and you enjoy what we're about to do over probably the next couple of days, because this is likely going to take a while. There aren't as many moves as you'd think. Each character has like 2 or 3, in some cases a little bit more, but mostly it's like 2 or 3 moves, so it won't be as in-depth. And also as well, we have to remember, everything you're about to see is subject to big changes. There is a big balance patch coming. There are 3 new characters coming out. They've already said that some custom moves, they just don't want them competitive, so they are going to be banned outright in competitive play. So their only example right now, Terminate, you know, the move for Terminator that gives him unlimited armor while it's activated, that is just not going to be in competitive at all. They're just going to ban that outright, so you can still use it in casual games and towers and stuff, but for anything competitive, no, that's gone. We don't know what other moves are there, so we're going to talk about these moves as if they're all viable, but there will be a few that are definitely not going to make it in, and there'll be a couple more specific examples as we go through. So without further ado, let's start off. We're going to go Shang Tsung and Shao Kahn. So these are 2 kind of polar opposites, where Shang is still yet to have a fair few of his moves that we haven't seen in competitive are here. There are a few moves that will really help him out for different play styles. I'm going to mark them on the screen so you can see them. So for this variation, it's going to be the Inferno Barrier, the Amplified Corpse Drop, and the Vile Sorcery. So what these are, the Inferno Barrier is effectively like, it is just a barrier that you can place behind your opponent or in front. So doing it normally, we'll always place it behind your opponent. If they get knocked into it, there's a kind of like, you know, little hit of juggle on it. And if you do close, it goes in front. So you're doing in front or behind. There are already examples of players showing some really cool stuff you can do with this alongside other moves, whether it's like the ninja morphs or ground eruption, of like setting it up and then going for like a slide or something that will like bring them to the other side. Obviously the basic stuff like bring it out and then throw them into it. Like it doesn't do much damage, but it's like, you know, unavoidable damage because you pull them into it. This is the kind of move that you're going to be able to use, and it's one slot as well. These are all one slot attacks. For one slot, you put a barrier behind. So if you're playing like ground eruption and you're trying to keep your opponent away, you're going to have like this in front of them while you're, you know, throwing fireballs behind it, or it's behind if you don't want them to kind of go away. Maybe you like some of the ninja morphs, but you don't want all of them Soul Eater style. You only want like a specific one. Maybe you want the lift, and maybe you want, you know, rain kick, and then you have this as a third move potentially. Like for example, an example I saw was for Dab. He did this like close version, like, or the version that goes in front, and then he did like rain super kick, which around the world hits them, they land on it, and then it turns into basically like a meterless launcher. If it connects, right, you have to set up and you have to hit it. So it gives you elements of setup, but a lot of screen control to kind of go hand in hand with what we've seen from Shang Tsung already. Corpse Drop Amplify. This is something that gives Shang Tsung a tremendous amount of damage. So Corpse Drop, we've all seen this. This ability lets you amplify it, and it turns into a launcher. This is basically Shang Tsung's biggest damage opportunity. I believe you can do this. I haven't looked at this in a while, but let me try this. Okay, that works. So you're looking at a character that normally does okay damage, now is doing a lot more. So just something basic like this. Let's do this. And then the default fire end. Just something basic like that is 360 damage for a bar, and that's like by itself. So this is a very heavy hitting version of Shang Tsung. It's basically going to be a launcher that you'll do on standing opponents. The big thing about ground eruption is you can do it off of like, you know, jumping, and that's kind of like his go-to, you know, Ermac lift, ground eruption. These attacks you do off of like jump kicks. Obviously you can't really do with his default fireball as well, but Corpse Drop as a launcher doesn't work the same way. You know, like this is, it might work from like the absolute lowest point, but it's generally speaking not going to be as applicable as you would see his other launching attacks. But the trade-off is this one is a lot more damaging. So there are like combinations you can do where you've got launching corpse and lift, or launching corpse and ground eruption. So you've got like, you know, you do this first, and then you pick up with like, here you do ground eruption, or you do Ermac, something like that, another amplify, and then you've got 2-bar combos for big damage. Speaking of damage, this does go onto our next thing here, where you have Vile Inscriptions and Malignant Sorcery. This is basically just spells. They are effectively Shao Kahn taunts. They do the same thing. So they either make your opponent deal less damage, or they take more damage. So you can see here, so Vile does increases damage opponent takes for a short time, and Malignant reduces damage they deal. So basically it's they do less damage or they take more damage. I'm pretty sure you can have both active at once. No, you can't. Okay, so you can't have both like Shao Kahn can. This is a very much, you will pick one and that will be it. For a lot of people, it tends to be the extra damage taken, and it's quite a considerable increase. Like 140 uppercut turns into 175. So for example, we're talking about damage, right? This combo we did here, super basic, was doing 360 with the increased damage. Like, you're looking at 450. Like, this is a sizable increase, to the point that I very much assume that this buff and debuff will probably get changed. I don't imagine this is going to stay the same as it is, because if you have like ground eruption plus this, you effectively get Warlock Shang Tsung. Because remember, Warlock Shang Tsung is like super top tier right now, right? And everyone's playing Warlock, and it's this really good variation. But it's because of ground eruption. No one's picking Warlock for the extra double amp on the skull. So Warlock's going to be able to do ground eruption plus Corpse Drop Amplify to launch, obviously. Ground eruption plus Vile Sorcery, you know, plus Barrier. I feel like that's going to be what a lot of Shang is. It's going to be a lot of ground eruption plus something else, you know, plus Shake to make you harder to zone. Barrier to give you more screen presence, Corpse Drop Amplify for, you know, 2-bar combos, or just this buff and debuff for extra damage across the board. Because it's every hit you do as well, right? And that's the big thing about this damage increase. It's not just combo damage, it's your front throw does 15%. So it ends up doing more than a normal throw. You still heal the same, but, you know, your healing throw now does way more damage, you know? Your back throw is now doing... This will probably be about 18-ish? Yeah, close enough, like 175. It's the overall damage increase from every hit that's going to do a lot. But that's why I say, remember, like, these moves are not guaranteed to be exactly as they are. We don't know what's going to change. The only thing we've seen confirmed is Stephanie did say that move slot values aren't changing. So what is currently 1 slot or 2 slot is staying that way. But she didn't say anything about specific move nerfs or changes. So, you know, take it what it is for now. I don't imagine the damage and debuff will stay the way it is. If it does, I'll be surprised. But, you know, I'm not a dev. I don't know. But these are, like, the 3 main moves you're seeing for now. However, there is another move that Shang Tsung has in his arsenal that exists, and it is Soul Swap. This is a teleport where you swap places with your opponent, and they take basically 50 damage. So they take 50 damage guaranteed. It just swaps in place. This works anywhere on screen, so max range, close range. It always does this. I don't know if you can do it in a combo. Let's see if I can just launch him quick. I haven't tried. But this is basically like a neutral tool. So you can do like... Yeah, so if they're in a juggle state, it doesn't work. If they're in neutral, if you're standing up, this will just swap places for you. So this is a move that people are very worried about. Just for doing like 50 damage, just like that, seems really, really, really dangerous. I want to show you something. I'm going to make us both jump at the same time. So... Right. So as soon as the opponent regains the ability to move, in fact, actually, I'm gonna go one better. I'm gonna control Shao. I'm gonna record Shang. Watch this. Right. So he is recorded doing the teleport and then jumping. Right. Look at the difference in recovery. I can move for like a whole second before he can. So this means that a lot of ranges. He is going to be unsafe. From like max range, a lot of characters will definitely struggle to deal with it. But obviously it will depend. Does Shang Tsung want to... Because the thing is, even if you don't punish him, like if I'm full screen, you're going to know he's doing it and you're going to get in like close range. So doing this from max range, if I reset us to go from full screen, right? Like you're still going to be in. You're still going to be like... You're still going to be close range by the time he's done it. So if Shang does this from full screen, you are at the very least going to make him lose full screen.
If you don't play this game,
you know, not every character has Shao Kahn movement. It is going to be character-to-character basis. And again, that depends if the move goes in the same way it does right now. You know, maybe it won't do 50 damage. Maybe it'll do a little bit less, or maybe it'll cost bar. Who knows?
But this,
right? We don't know.
This is where we're at with it right now, though, is that we have seen... I know we theorized over different variations before V3s. And you know, we looked at the Warcoit toss for Collector, and then when Squander comes out as a third variation, it's got the Warcoit. Warcoit was nerfed, so it's basically like some of these moves that seem quite insane, or like they could be quite ridiculous on a character like Shang, being able to give Shang Warlock, you know, the ground eruption, and then a launching corpse drop with the damage it currently does. I kind of feel like some of those values are going to be adjusted if they're becoming playable in a competitive space. Obviously, you know, I don't speak for the team. I have no idea what they're going to be doing, but because we know that
everything you're going to see in these videos is like hypothetical. We don't know for sure.
Yeah, exactly that. Imagine a noob Cybot chasing down that Shang Tsung. Well, with noob Cybot, you could give him some moves that might be able to help him out.
I mean, you could probably teleport him on reaction every time. Get hit,
maybe.
Just know he's going to do it and just teleport him. Like, Scorpion will be able to do it. Like, it'll be again, it's going to be character-to-character basis. But that's basically it for Shang Tsung. So you're looking at the Flame Tornado, which is going to be like a space control. Situationally, it could give some more aggressive benefits, depending on what other moves he's got, whether he's got like Super Kick or something that will launch and kind of knock
I don't think you
into
showed off the amplified Flame Pillar, by the way. I think you can add it.
All right, I'll do it now. I'll do it now in that case. Please don't hesitate to remind me if you think I've missed something, because I haven't extensively used a lot of these. I've seen them all, but I haven't extensively
This will be
used
for the sake of preventing about 100 YouTube comments.
Yes. Right, what am I even doing the right Inferno Barrier? There we go. It homes in on them. That's the one I forgot. It homes in on them. So if I put it behind and amp it, it moves in on him. I don't know if it's a state you can combo from. Okay, it is. So you can combo from that state. So Some players are theorizing that there may be opportunities to use it for like setup, maybe getting him in the corner, almost like an ice clone, but maybe not quite the same because it does have a considerable amount of startup. Like you're looking at 62 frames before it becomes active, and then 30 of recovery. So this is definitely not a move you can just throw out for the sake of it, especially for setup purposes with the wake up options that exist in this game. But yeah, Exploding Corpse Drop will give you big damage by Shang Tsung standards. The sorcery will do that even more so. It depends if you want to go really double down with like a really common Shang Tsung variation people are looking at right now is like Exploding Corpses, Ermac Lift, and Sorcery, and then you get like pretty much 500 damage 2-bar combos. Again, I don't think that damage will stay the way it is. Like, for that payout, it's too quick. Like, I imagine they might slow it down, so it takes longer to activate, or maybe the benefit you get from it just won't be as much. We don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But Shao Kahn is our second, and there's a lot less to talk about with him. Unfortunately for Shao Kahn, the only thing he doesn't have in a variation currently is the Air Wrath Hammer. So it's honestly not a bad projectile by any means. It is a very fast, good angle, mid projectile that does 6% damage. You know, it looks a little bit weird seeing Shao Kahn do this, but you can like do it off short hop. You almost see it like Sub-Zero Air Axe, where like it's gonna be, you know, not terrible on block, like minus 9, minus 10, minus 12, whatever, based on where it hits them. Like the higher it is, the more minus you will be on doing it. But if you get it like, if you hit them really low to the ground, you're basically going to be safe the vast majority of the time. If you have like the hammer toss, like for example in this variation I've given it the Seeking Wrath Hammer, you're going to have like this very annoying mid projectile kind of like, well I know it's a high, but he has got the mid toss as well if you want that one. You get this very irritating like projectile game. I don't know how much we'll see this used, but as far as air projectiles go, it's pretty good. You know, it's fast, it has a good angle covered. We've already seen how good those like diagonal projectiles can do, like Cabal Saw, you know, Sub-Zero Air Axe. Like, it is good to have that kind of utility. The question is whether we'll see it. I think Shao Kahn as a character, a lot of people aren't super excited for right now, as a general vibe, because he only has the one move we haven't seen. But it's for a character like Shao Kahn, I think it's about taking the variations you already like and then just optimizing it. So if you like Risen Emperor, keep Dark Priest, keep Annihilation. You don't find yourself using the Up Hammer, maybe you give yourself a mid projectile instead. Maybe you give yourself the Taunts if you want, you know, to be a bit more risky. Maybe you give yourself the Armor Break, you know, the Air Skewered instead, so you've got the constant Armor Break, which gives you more unbreakable damage.
Armor break moves that you can special cancel into are always the best too, because there's no safe way to do it. You know, there's no looking at the lack of armor break and then you break, you know, because you know you're safe to. A character that can cancel into it means at any moment they could do it and you could die.
Yeah, but also because it's a special move, you can special cancel, right? So Shao's jump kick, which is already super annoying. Jump 2, one of the best in the game. You have that extra layer if you want it, but I don't think that's going to be its main use. I think it's mainly going to be like neutral control, which to be honest, like for Shao Kahn having a really good projectile like this, I think that could help him a lot. Like, imagine fighting Risen Emperor where he has the reactionary damage off of Shoulder Charge because Dark Priest, or he's got the Annihilation Ender, and he's got all those crushing blows that go with it. And then on top of that, like long range buttons, like back 3 you have to respect. You have all these ranges you have to watch for him anyway. And now on top of that, you might have to worry about just this. You know, like that is going to be very irritating with the kind of range he's looking at. But yeah, I think Shao Player is going to have a question of a lot of variations they've already been playing, but in slightly different ways. And that's the thing. Just because we're getting custom moves doesn't mean you don't have to play existing variations. You can absolutely stick with competitive variations if you want and just remake them, because there are characters that have them. Or if there's like 1 or 2 moves you love, and then you have a third move that you want to swap out on the fly for matchup purposes, I think that's going to be a big thing. But for these two characters, that is what we're looking at. So let's move on to the next two.